Hi everyone, great to see so many people joining. We'll give it a couple of minutes just for everyone to arrive, but in the meantime, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. That would be great. My name's Catherine and I will be your host today. See you all shortly. All right, I can see lots of people still joining, but I think let's get started. All right, hello and welcome to Marketing Talk. Thank you so much for joining us, whether this is your first Marketing Talk event or if you've been to a previous one. A huge thanks for choosing to spend your Friday afternoon with us. We'll be bringing you some brilliant marketing insights from two exceptional Brighton-based speakers today, which we'll hope will provide a welcome distraction to everything that's going on in the world at the moment. Please do introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're joining from. It's great to get a feel for who's here. By way of introduction, hi, I'm Catherine and I've been working with the team at Silicon Brighton for a few months now to bring Marketing Talk events and the community to life, and I'll be hosting the event today. Quick bit of housekeeping, we are recording the session so that anyone who missed it can watch it back, or indeed if you would like to watch it back, you can do. We'll be sharing that link via Silicon Brighton shortly afterwards. You'll also see in the Zoom along the bar at the bottom, there's the Q&A button. Please do ask a question at any point of our panelists and our speakers. They would love to answer, and we will do a Q&A at the end of each talk. So there's plenty of time for your questions. Don't be shy. Before we get started, a little bit more about Marketing Talk. So this is our third event now. We started Marketing Talk to bring together marketers from all backgrounds, all industries, all career stages who want to take their skills to the next level. So we're bringing you brilliant speakers who will share their advice and insights on marketing strategies, but also on those all-important personal skills like career development, public speaking, etc. And in the future, we hope to expand out on the community aspects of what we're doing at Marketing Talk too. So we're thinking about starting breakout sessions where you can safely share a challenge that you're working on, or if you've had a big win that you want to share with people and get those learnings out there, there'll be the opportunity to do that too. So watch this space. And everyone who's here is invited to speak to. Getting that first experience of public speaking is so important and so empowering. So if you want to give it a go, even if it's just a 5-10 minute power talk, please do let me know. I would absolutely love to hear from you. So Silicon Brighton, who's helped to make this event possible, have a brilliant community hub where we can keep the discussion going between events, which we will tell you more about later. Fabulous to see so many people introducing themselves as well. So thank you so much for that. So on to today's agenda. quick intro from me, and then we will move swiftly on to our first speaker, which is going to be Kristian Bannister on the compound effect in marketing. So the small areas of focus that you can look at to gradually build on your career. And then afterwards, we'll hear from Megan Saker with a brilliant talk on content marketing, why you should care and how to do it right. And I'm sure both talks are going to be really insightful. And I can't wait to get started. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, which is going to be Kristian Bannister and his talk on the compound effect in marketing. Hi, Kristian. And just as a reminder, please do fire through your questions on the Q&A. We look forward to hearing from you. All yours, Kristian.
Thank you, Catherine, and hello, everyone. Really excited about doing this talk because I have to say it's been a little while since I've done one, but always good to get back to it. So let me jump straight into it. All right. So as Catherine said, I'm talking about the compound effect in marketing. So let me introduce myself properly. I'm Kristian. I am head of marketing at BrightLocal. We're a Brighton-based SaaS company, software as a service, and we specialize in marketing technology to help local businesses increase their online visibility. Now, I joined BrightLocal about nearly 2 years ago, and it's my first role as a head of marketing. And as a result, there's been a lot of things I've had to do that I wasn't doing as much in the past. And a lot of these things, right, I found have been really, really beneficial in how I'm going about marketing. Now, I'm less involved in the day-to-day as it go forward, but really, a lot of these things help me be more effective when I am doing the day-to-day, as well as helping me direct the team. And so we're making sure we're focused on the most important things. This talk's given me an opportunity to basically reflect on that. So a lot of this stuff I've been doing, noticing that it's having an impact. So this has been a good opportunity for me to actually put it down and formalize it. And hopefully what I share is going to be interesting for you too. All right, let me try. So most people will know about the idea of compound through interest. So as you can see here, compound interest is interest that builds on top of interest, whereas simple interest doesn't actually change. So you can see the difference. You really unlock exponential growth with compound interest. But don't worry, this talk is not about economics. It is about marketing. Now, the compound effect is probably most famous from a book written by Darren Hardy. And it's more about how you live your life and the decisions you make. And it proposes that success and failure are a result of small, seemingly unimportant choices we make on a daily basis. So effectively, this is stuff that has a ripple effect. The small habits, the small decisions, the small actions we take that have a much bigger, broader impact in our lives. And it's probably easier to describe in the negative, so the negative compound effect, because I imagine we all have some habits that don't actually pay off for us. So example, I go to bed quite late because I stay up all night watching a TV show on Netflix. So I'm binge watching away. And yeah, I just don't get a good night's sleep, right? And I don't set myself up well for the next day. So come the afternoon, I'm flagging at work, I'm less productive. The things that I want to do don't get done. And actually that then has a knock-on effect into the next day where I'm actually picking up stuff I didn't get round to doing. And if this cycle was to repeat over and over, you might find that you're missing deadlines, you're not hitting your targets. And then when it came down to it in the long run, if an opportunity for a promotion came up, you might not get that because you haven't been as effective in your role as possible. Now, I'd say if you ever had a manager who declined a promotion by holding up a card saying no, then probably in the wrong organization to begin with. But I think it illustrates the point that small decisions we make can have a bigger impact down the line. A similar premise is explored in a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Now, some of you may have read this, and he explores it in the sense of the aggregation of marginal gains, where if you were to get 1% better at something each day, by the end of the year, you would be 37 times better than when you began. Now, this is pretty simplistic concept because take, for example, if I was lifting weights and I'd never lifted weights before, I probably would see some mad gains at the beginning. And then as I'm lifting heavier weights, those same sorts of improvements might be harder to achieve. There will be diminishing returns, but I still think it's an important concept to think about both in our lives and in marketing. So are there any examples of these sorts of effects in marketing already? Well, I think there are, and TV advertising is one such example. They call it the halo effect here in a study by Accenture, and it effectively says, if you do TV advertising as part of an integrated advertising campaign where you're also doing advertising in other channels, you'll see that TV will start to have a ripple effect and impact the ROI in a positive way on the other channels. So that could be display advertising, that could be search advertising. And additionally, it also has this residual impact. So if you're running TV campaigns in 1 year and you stopped, you would expect to see an uplift in sales on subsequent years. So 1.3x in year 2, and then over the course of 3 years, they would say that you would see a 2.3x improvement to sales. Another example, which is pretty similar, is the idea of brand building campaigns versus sales activation campaigns. So sales activation campaigns would be very promotional campaigns, very focused on pushing your products, whereas brand building would be more about establishing who you are as a brand. Maybe it's a purpose-driven campaign. Probably one of the most famous examples of a brand that does this is Dove. So they've had their Real Beauty campaign running for a number of years now. They don't try and flog you the products. They're trying to establish that their brand has a purpose, but they also pair it with campaigns that actually push the products. And it's about finding this balance really when it comes to marketing. But if we go back to the chart, right, what is actually happening is when you have a sales activation campaign, you see this spike. So with the yellow line, it goes up sharply and then actually declines fairly quickly. Now with brand campaigns, you don't see that same sort of spike, but the thing that happens here that's most important is it doesn't drop off. It tends to retain the impact it's had. With sales activation campaigns, you're potentially starting from 0 each time. Now, as this time goes over, short term will actually outperform. So sales activation will outperform. But what Les Binet and Peter Field, who studied this, proposes that after about 6 months, you would see brand building actually deliver more sales. And this is really important if you work in an organization where brand building isn't actually seen as a really important thing. If you're always asked, how many leads do we get from this campaign? This is a really good study you can refer to say, actually, we need to invest in brand building because it's going to pay off in a big way over time and potentially even make our sales activation campaigns more effective. A lot of brands do both. And when it comes to marketing budgets, it tends to be that the sales activation stuff dominates the budget. And what's generally proposed is actually you should probably have a 50-50 split. So I'm not going to explore all of the different ways that this sort of effect plays out in marketing, but I'd recommend going to read up on it if you have the opportunity. I actually want to talk more about your career. And don't worry, this isn't some self-help guru talk, right? All I'm going to be doing is sharing the things that I found have had a compound effect in my career. And hopefully you find them interesting and you want to explore them yourselves, or you just generally like this concept and can go away and uncover the places where you think you can unlock a compound effect. One of the things that I'm trying to challenge here is the idea of a T-shaped marketer. This concept has been around for a decade, and it typically, looks something like this. What you'll have is along the top, basic knowledge in different areas or different channels of marketing, and then very deep knowledge in a single channel. And often it is very channel focused. And it's kind of how people have been encouraged to develop their careers. And I actually think that there's a potential risk with this. And I'm going to explain why in a story. So before I joined BrightLocal, the team who was managing marketing was spending quite a lot of money in Google Ads, and for what seemed like good reasons. So the team were targeted on free trial signups. So this is people hitting our website and taking up the option to have a 14-day free trial. And what they saw in around 2018, when they put more money into PPC, is that there was a nice spike in the number of free trials. So they pumped more money into it, and it seemed to keep delivering to the point where they were spending over £10,000 a month, which for a marketing team of that size was a huge amount of the marketing budget. But they always had this lingering worry, this lingering feeling that are these leads actually converting into customers? They didn't have the attribution in place to actually say whether PPC was helping the team acquire new customers. And so when I joined, they'd actually turned PPC off because they were a bit worried. They just weren't able to pinpoint whether it was being a successful channel. And I did look at this attribution problem, and it seemed quite complex to actually fix, and it was going to take a lot of time. But I thought, well, maybe there's an easier way to shine a light on what's happening. And it didn't take much. All I did was say, let's get the new customer numbers for all channels, right? And look at it over the same period. And what we can see here is on the blue line, this is all channels that delivered free trials. The red line is all new customers that were from all channels. So we didn't really need something too complex. And as you can see, that red line, there's absolutely zero growth, right? It's pretty much flat. So we can draw the conclusion that this PPC spikes that we are seeing weren't actually delivering new customers. There's other ways you can go about this. So I also looked at the campaigns that were set up in pay-per-click, and I saw that there was loads of keywords that just didn't feel that relevant to our target customer. So we specialize in local SEO, and a lot of the keywords were SEO tools or SEO software. So those sorts of people might be looking for quite a broad SEO tool, which we're not. We're not actually going to be a good fit for them. Additionally, they were bidding on keywords that had free in it. So like free SEO tools. So somebody who wants something for free, it's going to be really hard to convince them that they actually need to pay for something. So what was happening here is they were so focused on the free trials that they were just going after search volume, right? Trying to get in front of as many people as possible, regardless of whether they were actually a good fit and whether we were a good fit for them. So what was the impact of that? Well, it pretty much bombed our conversion rate. So we had a trial to paid conversion rate that we track, and it went from 12% at the beginning of 2017 all the way down to 8% in 2018. And we also ballooned our customer acquisition costs. So not only was PPC not delivering, but it's putting extra pressure on the other channels to try and deliver better ROI, because ultimately we do need to acquire customers in a way that's profitable for our business. And if one channel is taking up a huge amount of money and not delivering, that puts pressure on the other channels. And then finally, our churn rate spiked. Churn is effectively when people leave our platform. They no longer want to use us. They quit us. And what we saw is this actually spiked because the people who were converting from PPC, right, they might have purchased, but it just wasn't the right fit for them. So they ended up leaving, which had a spike on our churn. So how does this relate to the idea of being a T-shaped marketer? Well, at BrightLocal, the person managing the PPC, it wasn't their only job, right? They weren't 100% focused on PPC. They did manage other aspects of digital marketing. But what if they were, right? What if they were brought into the company specifically to focus on PPC? Then all of a sudden we start to do a bit of attribution and shine some light on what's happening. And it seems like it's just not working, right? It doesn't seem like it's a good channel fit for us, and we can't acquire customers in a cost-efficient way. What happens to that marketer if they don't have transferable skills? They're really at risk. Now at BrightLocal, you know, we're nice people. We'd always look for opportunities for people to move into different areas, have different responsibilities, but not all organizations would be like that. Some might be quite cutthroat and actually say, well, look, we can't have a PPC marketer if it's not a channel that works for us. So the problem I think with T-shaped marketing is, you know, we own the channel and then the channel starts owning us. And as marketers, we actually need to be channel agnostic. We cannot be in love with the channels we use, because the problem there is so much of your value is attached to whether the channel will work. And if the channel just generally doesn't work for your business model, your market, your organization, right, it's going to be a real struggle for you to show your value. And people can be scared to raise their hand and say, look, I don't think this is working, because so much of their value is tied to the success of a channel. So it's always something worth bearing in mind when you think about, you know, your success being only defined by a single channel. So this is another T-shaped marketer framework, which I actually think is a bit better because it introduces two new layers. So we've got marketing foundation, which seems to be saying like, these are some broad skills that could be applied to lots of different channels. And then you've got the base knowledge, the kind of base knowledge of marketing, you know, what actually makes up the fundamentals of marketing. So this is better, right? Because we're not just looking at channels. But the problem I have with this is like, there's no depth here. It's basically saying that if you want to like focus all your time and improve, you focus on the channels. But I actually think it's the opposite. I think this is like really where you'll see huge benefits in your career. And also when you come to execute in different channels. So it's fair to say I'm actually a bit of a T-shaped marketer. My career has actually played out like that. So it's not like it won't work. It's just I think there are real flaws with it. So the way I've worked is I actually started at the bottom and made my way up. So I started at an SEO agency and I was only looking after SEO. Then the agency grew, we were offering new services, and that gave me the opportunity to learn about different channels and work in those channels. Along the way, I honed my skill set because in order to be successful in those channels, I needed to have some of these skills. But I'd never say I probably looked at it and said, look, I'm going to focus really hard on this skill. It was always just to kind of get to the end, right? To kind of be able to do the job adequately. And then finally, the top part, right? I don't have a marketing degree. And so I've picked up a lot of the marketing fundamentals like on the job or just reading around on topics, but I've never specifically focused on learning the fundamentals. And when I joined BrightLocal as a head of marketing, I actually started to have this bit of this imposter syndrome. It's just like, God, you know, there's probably so much about the fundamentals I don't know. So I went away, I did a course, and it kind of gave me a good level of knowledge to have confidence and confirmed a lot of what I already know. But the thing that I found is by doing that, right, I started to shift where I really need to be spending my time thinking, right, where I need to be spending my time learning. And it's at this level that I feel like I've unlocked the compound effect. So the stuff I do here, right, it makes me a more effective marketer wherever I'm marketing. So whatever channel, whatever thing we're trying to achieve, this level sets me up for success. So I'm going to share those 5 areas that I found have unlocked the compound effect. They might not work for everyone, but they've worked for me. And hopefully they're interesting enough for you to go and explore. Okay, so my talk said the small things that reap big rewards. And to be honest, I've lied a little bit here. These aren't quick wins. There's no silver bullets and magic levers in what I'm proposing. These are commitments and you've got to commit to them, but they don't necessarily have to dominate your time, right? You can still get to the day-to-day stuff that you need to do. I'm just saying that like, these are the things, the small things that if you make consistent commitments to, you're going to see real big improvements and reap big rewards. The first one is talking to customers. Now, I haven't said customer research. I haven't said consumer insights, customer centricity. I've said talking to customers because it's the act of talking to customers that I found has been hugely beneficial. And I never used to do this. Like I could probably count on one hand over the course of a few years how many times I actually spoke to a customer. And there was a few reasons. The first is that I felt I had a good understanding of customers, but good is not good enough when it comes to understanding your customers. There's always more that you can be learning. And it's really important to do this because you need to challenge your assumptions, any biases that you have about what your customers want and how your customers think. Because the way you see your products, your brand, your market might be completely different to your customers. So going direct to the source is really, really important. The second was, it's not marketing's job to speak to customers. We can talk to business development. We can get some insights from customer support. There's people in UX who do this kind of research with customers. Yes, that's great, but it's not about whether it's expected. It's about the fact that this will help you be a better marketer. And in marketing, there tends to be an over attention to communications. And many organizations view this as well. They view that marketing is about what we say to our customers and how we try and bring our customers to us. But the clue is literally in the name, right? It's marketing. It's about the market. It's just as much our responsibility to help our whole business understand the market and make the right choices on who we target, how we position. So talking to customers is going to allow you to have those insights to make those decisions. I'm too busy. Pretty much every marketer will say this, right? We're always busy. But the way I look at it is, well, think about where we spend our time. A huge amount of time is spent on internal meetings, right? Where we think and talk about our customers. We try to figure out what they might want and what we need to say to them, but we never make the time to actually go and ask the customers ourselves, right? So if you were just to take like one meeting like that you might have internally talking about customers and actually go and talk to the customer, think how much more beneficial those meetings would actually be. So make time to do this because it really pays off. I'm awkward on the phone. All right. It's just, I've never been good at it. Like ordering a pizza, I don't know, stumbling, terrible. Probably my least favorite form of communication. But actually, I didn't have a chance to do it face to face. We've got a lot of US customers and, there's a pandemic going on. So I had to do it on the phone. Zoom's actually been better for it. And what you'll find is most customers are really nice. So if you're worried, don't worry. Like a lot of these customers will really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And it's so much easier after the first time. So how is talking to customers going to help? Well, I think there's a few ways. The first is it's going to get you outside of your bubble, right? You're really close to everything you do, and you need to take a step back to look past your assumptions and biases that you have. The best thing about this is you're going to get loads of anecdotes and stories that are going to help you in your marketing, whether you're positioning, messaging, or writing content. And I personally remember best from stories. And the best thing about this is there's actually a compound effect that happens when you get all of these stories. You're forming this much bigger narrative that you can dip into, and it's going to give you loads of great inspiration. And one trick that I love as well is they're going to write your copy for you. As marketers, I often think we overcomplicate how we say things, right? We probably bring in some jargon that customers just don't talk about and don't understand. The benefit of talking to customers is they explain their problems in really simple ways using really simple language. And if you start hearing those same things over and over again, grab it, right? Put that on your website, make it your value proposition, because if a lot of customers are saying it, right, there's a chance that potential customers will connect with it. You'll be speaking their language and they'll be really interested in finding out what you can actually do for them. And the final thing is you'll really build your influence in an organization. Just my general observation is the people who become quite customer obsessed, even if they don't have the responsibility of doing customer service and talking to customers, tend to actually really rise through the ranks in careers. So just make sure that, you're thinking about, well, actually, this isn't just about doing my job better. This is actually really setting me up for success within my organization. So how can you do it and commit to it? Make it a habit is a good way. So if you said, I'm going to spend 2 hours a month talking to customers, you might be able to squeeze in 4 calls. And by the end of the year, you might hope to have 50 conversations with customers. And that's the compound effect again, right? 50 conversations that are all playing off each other and bringing out some really interesting stories and themes that you can use in your marketing. Next is take on a research project that really requires you to talk to customers. So I did persona research, and I've seen maybe a couple of places, people who I know or places I've worked where personas, you know, they become this thing that's really important, but actually they kind of rely on what other departments say or their own assumptions. So they actually don't give themselves the opportunity to go directly to the customer and really learn more. And as a result, they might be missing some really important things within their personas. And the final one is case studies and interviews. This is where you can actually get an output, right? You've got some marketing that you can actually use off the back of a conversation. And previously we used to send out a template and it was pretty formal. We'd ask a customer to fill it in for a case study and it would deliver, you know, passable case studies, right? But when I actually shifted it and started doing these case studies as interviews, just talking on the phone, they became so much richer. There was real stories and we were really able to understand what we were able to do to help our customers. Second one is domain expertise, right? This is about, you know, if you work in an industry, really focusing on knowing as much as possible about what happens in that industry. Now, it's worth remembering that we are not the customer, right? We always need to remind ourselves that we are not the customer, but that doesn't mean you can't walk in their shoes. And I think it's easy not to walk in their shoes and still get away with marketing because there are techniques that people use that effectively allow you to wing it. So one such thing is the skyscraper technique. And what it says is like, go and see what your competitors have written and then write a better version. And you might do this by looking at all of the pages that are ranking for a certain keyword and bring them all together. And you've got the longest piece now. It's just like, well, that's not really addressing what customer problems are and what content needs to do. And obviously Megan's probably going to go into this in much more detail, but the challenge really you need is to have content that speaks to you as an authority and really helps your customers solve problems. And if you're just looking around at what everyone else has done, they might have completely missed what customers actually need. So at BrightLocal, we do pretty extensive onboarding to help anybody who's joining the company learn as much as possible about local SEO. So we have reading lists, we do email nurture campaigns. So we drop a new thing for them to read in their inbox every 2 days. Sometimes we ask people to pitch products as if they were a sales rep, even if they're not working in sales. We send them on training days to learn about local SEO and SEO in general. And then we have these monthly industry trend meetings where we all come together and talk about the things that happen in the industry. So everyone can feel like they're staying close to what's happening. And in marketing, that's really important, obviously, for us to be able to adapt what we're actually doing and also build that authority that allows us to create really effective content. Another way is eat your own dog food. So this is basically a fancy way of saying use your product, right? If you work in a SaaS company like mine, right? Can your product be used to help you in your marketing, right? That's a really good thing to do because you're going to learn the challenges that customers might face or how your solution solves a problem, right? And you're going to start to really empathize with customers and what they're going up against. So it's another good thing. It could also be with consumer products, right? Like if you have a consumer product, can you use it, right? Can you use it day in, day out and know what that experience is like and be able to use that in your marketing? So the goal here is to effectively not be, you know, your customer. You're never going to be your customer, but you want to be a representation of the most successful version of what your customer could be. So then you can impart that advice and be seen as an authority who's really helpful. The third one is consumer psychology. Okay, I've got a video here, so I'm going to hit play. And this is from my marketing hero, Dave Trott, absolutely brilliant speaker.
This is the consumer. So the first way, years and years back at the very beginning, how you tried to get to the consumer was with posters. You'll know those, Lautrec and the great French posters from the 20s. Then it changed and Americans found print and we would get to the consumer with print advertising. Then it changed and we found TV and we would get to the consumer with TV advertising. Then it changed and we found online, digital, and we would get to the consumer that way. Then it changed and we found social and we would get to the consumer that way. all different ways, constantly changing, and pretty soon it will change to whatever the next thing is that's going to be brilliant, and it will kill everything else and nothing will ever be the same again. So everything's always changing. Do you notice one thing on there that hasn't changed, one thing on there that doesn't change, one thing on there that will never change? The punter. That's the actual media. These are just technologies. They don't press a button on themselves. They don't make themselves work or go one to the other. If you want to go viral, and if you're any good at all, you want to go viral. Viral means you get into what we used to call word of mouth. So I can get, if I run an ad once, that my money's spent. But if I run an ad once that gets a guy talking to it to another guy to another guy to another guy, blah, 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 pretty soon I've increased my spend by 10 or 20 times.
All right. Good old Cockney geezer, Dave Trott. Go and check him out. His content is brilliant. So the thing I find interesting that plays well with what I'm saying is the idea, this obsession with the channels and the technology that seems to be prevalent in marketing, when actually we really just need to obsess about the customer. And consumer psychology is brilliant because a lot of it, right, a lot of it hasn't changed. We've got all of these things that are impacting us in the world, you know, pandemic, but ultimately the kind of base stuff that informs like how we think and how we behave generally doesn't change that much. So go into those kind of Bibles of consumer psychology is going to be really still very, very relevant today. Phil Agnew, I used to work with him. He's my mate. He spoke at the last event and he covered this in much, much more detail, probably much better than I ever could. So go and check out his video. I think it is online, actually. Maybe Catherine can share that. So one caveat, consumer psychology is not strategy. It's very much tactical, right? Don't go thinking that, you know, this is your surefire way to get better results. So something like anchoring bias, where you have one product priced really highly to make other products seem to have really good value, right? That doesn't work like if your customers just don't see value in your products to begin with, or you just haven't done your pricing research and establish what value-based pricing should look like for your business. Additionally, like scarcity, you know, it works great unless it's fake. And I see loads of examples of this. This is kind of a good example where you got webinars and it's like, it's limited seats. And it's just like, is it really? I'm sure you can cope with as many people who want to sign up. So don't bullshit your customers, right? They'll see right through it. And when you think about consumer psychology, it always needs to be in the kind of sense of you're building on top of something that's already proven itself to have value, right? That's the important thing. It's the sprinklings of stuff that can help people take action and influence people. Number 4 is, if of all the skills, right, I haven't mentioned really many skills. The number 1 I'd say to focus on is copywriting, vital skill in marketing. And I actually think a vital skill in business in general. So much of what we do is the written word. In marketing, we've got emails, we've got, you know, blog posts, we've got long form content, we've got social media, right? And it's the words, right? It's the words that are the most important thing there. So we have incredibly refined targeting capabilities now that like marketers like 10 or 15 years ago could never even imagine. So here is a quick ad campaign that I could set up. So I've built an audience in Facebook and it's took me 1 minute. So I could target women aged between 25 and 35 who live in the UK, who've just got married in the last year, who have an interest in dogs and also have an interest in lorries. And like some reason I'm able to target 2,500 people who fit this profile. You know, that's crazy, right? That's something I could do. And it's kind of scary amount of data that, you know, Facebook is harvesting about us, but like everyone has access to this. It doesn't take much knowledge to be able to go and do this. And with kind of this immense power, I think comes lazy copywriting. We're so focused on the speed in which we can get a message out that we don't think about actually what we want to say and what's going to be compelling to drive someone to take action. And I'm sure you see them all the time, right? Littered with just like ads that just are written badly and don't have anything compelling about them. See, targeting is not a competitive advantage. anymore. Like anyone can use these targeting tools to get in front of who they think is their right customer. But I believe great copywriting is. And a study recently by Unbounce showed that when they looked at what influenced conversions on a landing page, copy was 2 times more influential than design. So if you're thinking, okay, how can we increase conversion rates on our website? Copy is the place you need to get right. The final one is owning a number. Now, this is slightly different because this is about, kind of creating that accountability with yourself, improving your value. I've hired for a few roles at BrightLocal, seen, probably maybe 100 CVs, maybe more, right? And they all seem to follow a very similar trend. Nearly all marketers these days have exposure of different channels. Everyone can say that they probably worked a bit in social media, they've done some email marketing, they've written content, done some stuff that helps SEO. And it is no differentiator now. Everybody has that opportunity to work across different channels. The ones that really stand out is when someone says, well, what was the impact of that? What did I help the business do? What numbers did I hit? What was the increase in the things I was working on? That really stands out. And it starts with owning a number, right? Holding your hand up and saying, I've got a way I can figure out how I can measure what I'm doing. I'm going to own this number. And it could be anything, right? If you're doing content marketing, maybe you're going to say, I'm trying to drive up search traffic. And the good thing about that is if you're focused on search traffic, then there might not be one set way that you have to go about it. It might be, oh, the thing that's holding back our content is our site's really slow. And you don't necessarily have to go away and learn how to improve page speed improvement. There might be someone else who could help you do it. You could, talk to a freelancer or a consultant. But if you focus on the number and not the channel, then all of a sudden you're very much focused on the outcomes. And on your day-to-day, this is going to really help. It's going to give you direction, right? It's going to help you know what you need to focus on. It's going to help you prioritize because there's so much in marketing that we could be doing. But now you can focus on stuff that you think is going to impact and get you closer to that number. It allows you to experiment. There might not be one set way to get to that number. And finally, communicate value to your peers, to your manager, to the organization, or, having stuff that you can refer to if you're applying for a new job. So these are the 5 things. And I think they all play against each other really nicely. But the thing that they unlock, which I think is where the compound effect is, it has this big impact across what you're doing and the perception of what you're doing. So you'll be more effective at content marketing. You write more compelling copy. You'll be able to position your products and brand better. You'll ultimately get better results. The orange one is about, how well you can adapt, right? You aren't tying yourself to a single channel, and you can transfer your knowledge and skills wherever you're working and prove that you can take on more responsibility. And then the final one is the value, right? It's going to just scream out, right? If you're playing to these things, you're going to get greater influence in your organization, and you're going to stand out amongst the crowd of your peers or when you're applying for a new job. So what I'm saying though, doesn't mean that we should forget about channels, because we need those to execute, and we need to know how a channel works. Otherwise, we're just going to be, running blindly around trying to figure out what we can do in a channel. So that is still important. But the way I see it is you shouldn't only start with a channel and think that's what you're there to do. And knowing a channel is still important, but I'd say knowing how people work is more important, right? That's the thing we should obsess over, like the customer, the consumer. Spend more time thinking there and spend less time, twiddling all the knobs with the channels, thinking that that's going to unlock your exponential growth. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. I hope you found that insightful. I think there's a bit of time for some questions.
There is. Thank you so much, Kristian. That was absolutely fantastic. I have made a ton of notes because I think, you're a B2B SaaS marketer. I'm a B2C marketer, and everything that you just said, I think, applies perfectly to what we're doing as well. So those really sort of transcend across both types of marketing. Thank you for that. We've got lots of questions coming in, which is great. We'll try and get through as many of them as we can. So please do drop them in the Q&A if you would like to. So let me go through these. So first one came in fairly early on in your talk from Reza, which is, can you give us a little bit more detail around the concept of T-shaped marketing? Is there a sort of a very brief overview of that you would be able to cover off?
Yeah, so the most common way that would be talked about is the idea of different areas of marketing or different channels. So you think social media, email marketing, content marketing, SEO, PPC. So like all of these different ways that generally exist in digital marketing in terms of trying to get in front of customers, right? So having a good base knowledge of all of those things. And, you know, if someone dropped it in your lap, yeah, you wouldn't be an expert in it, but you know how to do it. But then picking one where you're going to go really, really deep. So that's kind of the most common way that people would think about T-shaped marketing.
Great. And I'm sure there's lots of info online. I'm sure some good reading if people would like to understand that a little bit more. Question from Sophie, who would like to know what criteria are important when selecting an agency for your first job. So I imagine Sophie's looking to take her first step into the world of marketing and going agency side. Any advice there?
I don't think there's a wrong or right answer in terms of which you choose. I think you should just feel like, is it the right type of business where you're going to actually excel and grow? Some agencies, you might be kind of like me and very focused on one channel. Some might try and get you to work broader across different channels straight away. Some businesses might expect you just to learn one single channel, and some might give you exposure to lots of different channels. So I'd always say, like, look at the organization, like, how's it set up? What responsibilities would you have? And does that actually match with the things that you want to focus on early in your career?
Yeah, great advice there. And I think that's exactly the sort of question that you shouldn't be afraid to ask in the interview process as well. You know, it's as much finding the right fit for you as it is for the employer.
Yeah.
Let's get into one around the specifics of what you talked about. So David has asked, what's the best way to talk to customers? So you mentioned talking on the phone. Dave has asked whether you've got experience, maybe Zoom or anonymous surveys. What sort of method do you find works particularly well?
So I'd say with surveys, it's kind of a different part of customer research. That's effectively the quantitative side of things. So when it comes to talking to customers, I literally mean like having a conversation. So, you know, just using Zoom. So if you have customer data, or you kind of know that customer has spoken to customer success team, if you've got a customer support team, or spoken to your sales team, and you think that they actually might be a good fit to have a conversation about something, then that's a good way to find out which customer that is. And so this is, you know, effectively just actually talking, and whatever means you can do, kind of go with it. Like I said, most of our customers are in the US, about 80%. So I'm not allowed to fly over there and talk to customers every time I want to have a chat as much as I'd like to. So like Zoom works for me. And to be honest, like the other problem is, like, you know, I'm having to do these late sometimes because of the time zone, but it's always worth that investment. So yeah, it doesn't have to be super complicated. If you know somebody in your organization who speaks to customers, right, ask them who might be somebody who's worth speaking to. Maybe describe the problem that you're having or the things you want to find out, and they might have somebody they can refer you to.
Great. It's probably a good opportunity to do a bit of testing as well, to try the different forms of communication and see which ones work best for your particular type of customer, whether you're B2B or B2C. One from Jane, who's asked if you cross-reference Maslow's hierarchy of needs when planning your sales messaging, which is a fabulous question.
Yeah, I never have actually. No, maybe I'll have a look into it. We've used a few different frameworks when it comes to messaging. We're always exploring and trying new things, because I don't think there's like one set way that's going to always deliver you the right sort of messaging. So a lot of it involves kind of adapting and seeing what works, both internally when you're planning it and also externally when you're putting it there. But tell you what, I'll have a look at the hierarchy of needs and see if there's something there.
Brilliant. And let's squeeze one more question in, just to make sure we don't run over time. So question that came in, which was a question around your background from an academic point of view, and if you have any tips for someone who wants to move into marketing without a marketing degree.
Yeah, I studied film and video. So so I'm not sure how much of it translates. I mean, I guess like the idea is that, you know, maybe come from a bit more of a creative background. And I think that really plays well in marketing. But at the same time, you could come from a very analytical background and do a very good job in marketing. So I don't think there's kind of like one set path that without a marketing degree is best. I think it's just like, is this an area you're interested in? I think like the main thing with marketing is just like, do you have a natural curiosity? Because that, I think, goes a really long way, whether you're an analytical person or a creative person. So yeah, did film and video, never made the blockbuster Hollywood flick that I hoped I would, but I actually do think like that creativity's helped me. And actually earlier on in my career, like some of those skills I was actually able to put into practice. So, you know, if I was having to create videos or, you know, do website assets and stuff like that, I was actually able to draw on that a little bit. Yeah, I just say like, there's no closed doors, I think, when it comes to getting into marketing. Just go for it. If you think that it's an area that you're really interested in and you can speak enthusiastically about it and you have that curiosity to learn, then I think that will do you well.
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Kristian. We've already had a message from someone saying they've emailed a client asking for a call rather than going over email. So there you go. It's already happening.
Yeah, it just do it, right? And people will go, yeah, sure, why not? I think people, you know, don't like going back and forth in email anyway.
Yeah, agreed. All right then. So Kristian's talk will be shared in the recording afterwards if anyone wants to catch up again. And I can also reshare the link to Phil's talk that you mentioned from last time, which was brilliant as well.
Great talk.
Sorry we didn't get through all the Q&A, but I'm sure Kristian wouldn't mind if you pop him a message on LinkedIn if you have any burning questions that's still to be answered. And thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right, so on to our next talk, which is from Megan Saker, who's going to be talking to us all about content marketing, why it matters and how you can do it right. Hello, Megan.
Hi, hello.
I will leave you to it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Right, let me share my screen. Thanks very much for having me. Hopefully you can see my slides. Someone shout if you can't. So, right, content marketing, why you should care about it and how to do it right. So, yes, I am Megan. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Lucidity. So Lucidity is a software platform. So like Kristian, we are a SaaS, so we're software as a service. And our platform is used by businesses to create, manage and communicate their strategy plans. So it has tools in it to give business leaders strategic insight. It gives one central online home for their strategy plan. It has a full task management system in order to be able to run the execution. And it has communication tools to make sure that everyone in the organization knows the strategy, is on board. And then it has goal trackers and KPI tracking to help you track the results. So the type of marketing that I am doing at Lucidity is to drive traffic to our website, to generate trial signups, and then to convert those into paying customers. So your typical SaaS model. Previous to Lucidity, I was head of marketing at Magex, who are another tech business in Brighton. And then prior to that, I spent sort of 10 plus years in book publishing, marketing, business content, including marketing content, marketing books. So, and I think it's that combination of business publishing and technology that's created this sort of perfect storm in me that makes me a real advocate of content marketing. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I honestly believe that content marketing is the most important area of marketing to understand and to be good at, because it's fundamental to driving online traffic, to nurturing leads, to converting people to customers, and then to keeping them happy and making them love your brand. So content is the key to nailing each of the conversion points along the buyer's journey. So this is what I'm going to sort of talk to you guys about today. So there's a lot here, I realize, so it is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but the beauty of content marketing is that content marketers have written about every possible aspect of content marketing. So anything that you want to know about here in more detail, just Google it, and HubSpot or Neil Patel or the Content Marketing Institute or Moz will have written a blog post about it. So we're going to cover why to do content. I'm going to talk briefly about the context of it being part of the inbound strategy, the KPIs. We'll talk a bit about buyer persona analysis. We'll look at some keyword research, competitor content analysis, some ideas for different content types, how to optimize your content, how to manage a content calendar, and then I'll do some sort of summary. We'll see how that goes. So why do content? So I've spoken a bit about how it can drive each stage of the funnel and the buying process. But here's a bit of detail about what content marketing can do for you. So primarily, content is about driving traffic to your website. And sure, it's not the only factor that ensures that your site is search engine optimized, but it's certainly one of the most significant ways that you can optimize for your important keywords, how you can be discovered by people searching for them, and you drive people to your site. And I'll go into more detail about that later. Good and consistent content will also help you drive returning traffic. So content can be how you get people to find you, but then it can also be the reason that they come back to you. So any content strategy needs to have as one of its core objectives establishing your site as a go-to authority on your particular subject. Content can also be used to bring visitors back to your site through retargeting. So often if someone lands on your site because one of your blog posts is relevant to their search, but it's the first time they've ever heard of you, it's often too much of a jump to then get them to sign up for your software trial or to get them to buy your product or subscribe to your services. So, but if you retarget them with another bit of content, so maybe this time a download, that means that they will fill in a web form. Then you stand a much better chance of bringing them back to you and then capturing their data. And so by retargeting, I mean using display or social advertising that targets people who have previously visited your website based on tracking scripts and cookies. And if you're clever, you'll segment your website traffic and retarget based on particular behavior or page views. So if someone has visited a particular blog post, serve them an ad from a related webinar or ebook download. If someone has been on your pricing page, they have higher intent. So retarget them with some content that's more product specific. So maybe it's a case study or a video of your product. Anyway, retargeting is probably another talk in its own right. Another thing that content can do for you is brand trust and authority. So high quality content will establish you as an authority in your niche. So if it's good enough, it will be shared. And then it's the mechanism and the medium through which you can foster word of mouth. So that will grow your profile and raise awareness. And that can support those important sales deals or partnerships discussions that are happening in your business at sort of leadership level. Leaders in your business will love you if they can show a prospective customer or partner that your business is number one on Google for whatever the subject is, or that you get a great, or that you've got a great back catalogue of content and resources. Lead generation. So once your content has done its job and it's driven traffic to your website, it's also then the primary way you can capture data from those website visitors and turn them into leads in your database. So you do this through having chunkier, sort of higher value content that people are happy to give their details for. They're happy to fill out a web form in order to get, and then you've brought them into your funnel. And then you nurture those leads in an attempt to convert them to customers. And guess what? Content is king here too. So you don't get someone buying from you after just downloading one infographic. In fact, there's an often cited statistic that people on average will read 9 pieces of content from you from a company before they buy. So content is how you nurture those leads. So with email marketing and automation, you send those leads more useful content, gradually getting more product specific as they become more engaged. But I'll talk about that a bit more in a sec. Social. So content gives you something to talk about on social. Look, and I'm not a massive advocate of social sort of across the board. I think it's more important in some industries than others. It often feels, particularly on Twitter, it often does feel like you are just shouting your message into an arena of other people and businesses shouting their message as well. But again, that's probably a different subject. Certainly, if you're doing social, and you should be doing social to some extent, for goodness sake, have good, useful, relevant content to share. And finally, good content will help you, will help the business rather develop partnership channels. So if you're exploring a potential partner, you want to do a joint venture with someone, for example, then starting with a bit of sort of co-created content, like doing a webinar together, is a great way to test a partnership. So do you work well together? And it'll also give you real insight into their reach. So because working with a partner on a piece of gated content is how you capture leads from their reach. So their audience, you're bringing their audience into your database. So if they drive a load of leads, a load of signups or registrations, then you know that they have a decent platform and they're good reach, and you want a piece of that. So those are the things that content can do for you. Now, this is all within the wider context of inbound marketing. Now, I'm sure you're all completely familiar with inbound marketing and probably just think of it as marketing. But back in the day, when loads of us marketers were doing print advertising and posters, and it was all about brand awareness campaigns, shifting to this inbound approach where you're letting people discover you themselves was a big deal. So it's the difference between push marketing and pull marketing. So content is absolutely the backbone of the inbound methodology. Inbound is about attracting strangers to your website through having content that answers their search queries, then capturing their data through gated content, as I've discussed, and then turning them into leads. Then nurturing those leads and working them down the funnel until they're highly engaged and ready to buy, and then handing them over to sales to close. So content is also the core way in which you influence that final conversion, that delight stage, often called the forgotten conversion, and where you're converting your customers into brand evangelists who will then spread the word and sort of drive more custom your way. And you can see here that content features in every stage of the inbound journey. You might have heard people talk about top of the funnel content and middle of the funnel content. And you need a content plan that has content relevant for each of your personas. You've got content relevant for each stage of the sales funnel or the buyer's journey, whatever diagram you want to use. So the top of the funnel content is the really sort of general stuff that answers people's search queries and brings them to your site. But as you nurture leads and bring them further down the funnel, your content becomes more focused on the specific problem that your product or service helps. And then down into the content gets more specific about your actual product. So then you're into case studies and comparison grids and pricing information. However, actually, I shouldn't even be talking about the funnel because the funnel is over, people. It's all about the flywheel now. I had to use that horrendous animation for this. So Brian Halligan, so inbound actually was the concept of inbound marketing was first coined by Brian Halligan, who's the co-founder of HubSpot. And it really became hugely popular in around 2012, which actually I know because I was the marketing manager for the book Inbound Marketing in Europe. But anyway, so you know, it was all about the funnel. But in recent years, in the last couple of years, Brian Halligan has adapted the flywheel model because what the funnel does not take into account is that final conversion where you're delighting customers, converting them into promoters and driving word of mouth, which feeds back into your efforts to attract new leads and customers. So with a funnel, the process ends with a customer. Once you've spat a customer out the bottom of your funnel, it's job done. It doesn't reflect the cyclical nature of modern day marketing. So delighting existing customers influences your acquisition of new ones. and content plays a part in each section of this wheel. With any good strategy, you need to establish your objectives, then your goals and KPIs. So now we know what our content objectives are. What should we be tracking in terms of assessing the performance? So here are some of the possible KPIs to focus on when you're monitoring the performance of your content. So traffic growth, so your total uniques, but more specifically, those that are coming from organic search, and you can monitor the growth of that over time. Lead generation, of course, so the number of leads with content download as their first conversion, and or the leads who have come from organic search. You can track engagement KPIs to get a sense of the improvement of your content quality over time. So looking at time spent on page and bounce rate. So the longer people spend on page, obviously the more engaging your content is. And cost per lead. So this is the key metric to send up to, the CEO, the CMO, your FD. If you're a content marketer, you want to show you can generate leads for less than paid search, for example, and therefore you should get all the resource. Keeping an eye on search traffic is important. So monitoring the average position you hold for the keywords that are driving traffic to your site, and watch the improvement of that over time. And also the search queries that are actually getting people to you. So this will tell you if you have your content plan right and you're successfully ranking for the keywords you've identified as the ones that your target audience are searching for. And then the final and most important KPI is obviously customer acquisition. So how many customers are you driving from your content? So how many of those content downloaders are converting into customers? Because if it's not a channel for customer acquisition, what's the point? So we've talked about why it's worth doing content marketing and what it can help you achieve. So now let's get into the how. So job one for any content marketing strategy, in fact, indeed any marketing strategy, is to undertake buyer persona analysis. So this is to help you understand your target audience, to get insight and understanding of your ideal buyer. Now, different buyer personas are different, is worth saying, are different or can be different. In most cases, it's different from user personas. So buyer personas are the people who are actually making the purchase. So the people who are around the table making the decision to buy your product or service. You can do buyer persona analysis to varying degrees. So from undertaking in-depth research and questionnaires, focus groups, or having, like Kristian says, a number of sort of structured conversations with your existing customers. Or if it's a market that you know really well, or people in your team know really well, have a lot of experience with, you can run persona analysis workshops with a room full of the customer-facing people in your organization. So people from sales, support team, service desk, whoever in the business interacts with customers on a day-to-day. And the exercise here is to build a generalized, semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer. So here's an example. You give it a name, a bit of a backstory, and they help you to sort of hone your understanding of the people that you're targeting. So you need to determine, most importantly, what their challenges are, what their pain points are, what they're responsible for, and what they're trying to achieve. And it is those things that will be driving people's Google searches. So everyone takes to Google when they have an issue they need help with, or guidance or information or whatever. So if you understand all those things about your buyers, then you'll know what you need your content to be about, and therefore what you need your website to rank for in order for them to find you. So go through this exercise of crafting one of these personas for each of your different buyer types. The holy grail in marketing is to have sort of one or two personas so you can really focus and specialize. But in reality, you'll probably have a few. Now, the next stage from this is then to get more specific. So to compile a long list of keywords like this that you believe your buyers will be searching for. And I would recommend initially just starting with a big old brain dump. So like channel your buyer persona, use the method acting technique and become James or whoever your persona is. And then imagine what you'd search for to find the answers that you're looking for. And now the next step from this is then to test your assumptions. And this is where keyword research comes in. So it's my absolute firmly held belief that keyword research is the most valuable skill a marketer can have. Indeed, anyone in business. Now, possibly I'm going a bit overboard there. But quite honestly, knowing how to test the popularity of any search term will see you right in a whole bunch of situations. And it's not hard. All you need to do is find your favorite tool, know how it works, and then you're laughing. So these are a few of the decent tools out there. Some you can use for free, some have free trials, some are paid subscriptions only. There used to be actually far more free tools available. They all seem to have moved to paid models since, but there are still some free tools around. Just have a Google and play with everything and see how you feel. Good old Google Keyword Planner is actually my favorite, but it does depend on you having an active Google Ads account. Without one, you can use the tool, but you'll only really get broad search ranges rather than specific amounts. So it will tell you, you know, a search term has sort of 1 to 10 monthly searches or 1,000 to 10,000. So it's a bit vague, but with an active ad account, you get the exact numbers. So doing keyword research tells you how many searches a keyword gets. You can also see related keywords and similar searches. So you do your keyword research to test the popularity of keyword, but also to see if you're articulating it right, if you're articulating it in the most popular way, the way your personas will. And here's actually an example of that. So back in my book publishing days, we did a book on body language with one of those body language experts who used to be on Trisha and the like, the people that they roll out on those talk shows to tell you if someone's lying and they did sleep with their mum's sister or something. Anyway, we were doing a series of videos for YouTube as part of our content marketing for that book. And we had a video about flirting. And I went and did some keyword research around how to flirt, which was our initial instinct about what that we would call that video, and found through the tool's suggestions and a bit of digging that actually how to tell if someone likes you got loads more monthly searches. So we called it that. We optimized the description for that long tail keyword and it got like 800,000 views. So keyword research can help you see how popular a keyword is, but also how it's most frequently expressed, which is very important. In order to achieve the best possible search ranking, let me quickly discuss the different types of content. So content's number one function is to drive traffic. And unfortunately, volume does equate to volume of traffic. Like volume is important. And that sort of, in fact, most of the wisdom around blog frequency points to about sort of 2 to 4 blog posts a week as the optimum frequency to drive maximum traffic. And that frequency is hard. So you have to be banging stuff out. And if you're a content marketer in a team of sort of 5 content marketers, then that's cool. You don't have a problem. But more often than not, there'll just be 1 or 2 content marketers at best, or a lot of the time, you know, there's a team of marketers, and content is part of sort of what everyone does, as well as everything else you've got to get done. So it's hard, but it is 100% worth the effort. Here are some of the types of content, both gated and non-gated, you can do to sort of, you know, kickstart your thinking. So importantly, some of these are quicker wins than others. So you need to have a combination to keep frequency and quality sort of ticking along. So sometimes you need to heavily rely on subject matter experts within your business. And, you know, if you need an in-depth piece with a lot of wisdom. But others here you can do yourself with a bit of desk research and, you know, in a small window of time. But on that point, actually, every time you have a sort of chunky bit of content from, you know, an expert, then you need to milk it dry. So, for example, if you produced a webinar, there's a lot of time and effort gone into that, then you need to capitalize on it by like stripping it down and selling it for parts. Like you need to turn the transcript into an ebook. You need to edit it down into a series of blog articles. You need to take some of the data and do an infographic, etc., etc. And I'm just conscious of time now. Probably need to I might need to whiz on a bit. But look, so you can see some other examples here. Listicles are great. They can really help with your influencer marketing because you can tag people, you know, important influencers. You can list them in a, hey, top 10 business thinkers you should follow. Let them know you've done that. Start a conversation, get them to share it. You get a backlink. Everyone wins. But anyway, so once you know what you want to write about and the format you want to use, then how do you optimize it? I'll very quickly go through this. So apologies for this ugly slide. I sort of run out of steam by here. In fact, actually, all of these slides are pretty ugly, aren't they? But look, the important thing to say about these tactics here on this slide is that essentially the most important thing is to write authentically, like thinking about your buyer persona, and write sort of good, useful content. You won't go horribly wrong if you're doing that. You know, you can't game the system anymore. You can't ram blog posts full of keywords. You know, Google is smarter now, and you'll get picked up on that. But it's worth doing the following things. So having really good keyword focused H1s, so your titles, make them keyword. Use keywords throughout, but like I say, don't overload them, keep it natural. Use the LSI related keywords. So that's latent semantic indexing. And you'll find these related keywords when you do a Google search. That image there, you can see, you find them at the bottom of the page. So include those as well. Use headers throughout, keep them keyword focused. Write to answer questions, and I'll talk about that in a sec when I talk about snippets. Use your meta descriptions. So make sure you add in all your meta descriptions, keep them keyword focused, short, engaging. Use image alt tags. So don't upload images and leave, you know, image 5 or the file name or whatever. Use that as an opportunity to include your keywords. Make sure you've got a keyword in URL for the blog post. Link out to reputable sites. That helps. Long form, so 2,000 words, plus is the optimal length, but keep it scannable. Short paragraphs, headings, chunk it up. Link to internal articles. And if you want to know more about this, it's worth having a look at HubSpot's concept of pillar pages. But you have a sort of master blog post, and you link out to all your different blog posts that go into more detail on specific areas. Compress your images, which also helps with that last point. You have to stay on top of your site speed. Nothing kills your search rankings more than having a really slow site. Featured snippets. We're actually probably out of time to talk about this, but I would do some Googling around featured snippets. But they're worth doing. The research shows you get 2 times the amount of click-through rates when you secure a featured snippet, and these are the tactics that you would use to do that. So you write answering questions, you have a bait paragraph, which is 4 to 50 words, which answers that question. You have to do clever use of headings. So you use bullet lists with H2 and H3, text treatment, etc. Right, then maximizing the data capture. So when you've got all this content on your site, make sure you have pop-ups and blog subscription forms wherever you can, so that people that are there on your site see the opportunity to download any of your content and fill out your web form and come into your funnel. And then importantly, you need a really good tool to manage your content calendar. So a bit of a plug for Lucidity, but you know, we use our own dog food. So we use Lucidity this is one of our custom boards in the task management area of the product. So here you're able to have all of your ideas, your in progress, you nearly finished, the ones that were designed to get all of our graphics done, the ones that are already published, promoted, and these are all customizable. All these columns, you can have them all as you want. And then the beauty of using Lucidity for us is that it's then all of these are tied into a goal within one of our core strategic objectives about driving customer acquisition. So I would, if you're interested in thinking about what tool to use to tie your content strategy into your wider company strategy, then I would jump over to Lucidity, getlucidity.com and have a look at that. But right, sorry, rushed a bit at the end there, but that is me done. So if there is any time left, there's a small opportunity for some questions.
There certainly is some time left. Thank you so much, Megan. That was fantastic. Again, I've made a ton of notes that I think I can definitely transfer into my B2C role as well. So let's whiz through a couple of questions. One that particularly caught my eye, which I think is really, really pertinent when you particularly are dealing with SEO and bidding to get that resource. One of the first questions that you're probably going to get from the CEO, CMO is, how long is it going to take to see a return on this investment? And, sometimes with SEO, it can be quite a while, can't it? Do you have any advice around that?
Yeah, so certainly. So for example, if I talk about, our experience at Lucidity, so building up all that content takes a long time. And actually there's some sort of data that shows that the tipping point in terms of really driving traffic is something like 402 content pieces on your website, blog articles on your website. So it does take a long time. So you absolutely, if you're starting off, if you're, a startup, you have to supplement your inbound strategy with some sort of good old fashioned sales hustling. And if you're the content marketer, you can support that you can support that by doing webinars. Webinars are content. I firmly believe it's not, that they are absolutely content. They should be driven by the content experts in the company. So go out and find organizations that have reach into your target audience, and work with them on a webinar, say, look, we'll handle the logistics or blah, blah, blah. And then start and then that's promoted into their audience. And then you can generate leads without the need to have big traffic yourself. So yeah, you absolutely, it takes time. You need to supplement it with more tactical, shorter term solutions.
Yeah, so keep that long-term investment. Don't take your eye off that prize, but supplement it in the meantime.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So questions around social content. Do you have any thoughts on how frequently it's wise to post on different social channels, or is that very much dependent on your audience and
Yeah, it really is. And I think that people get really worried about, what should I do? And so then you're just doing it like a robot at this sort of set times. It varies wildly from social network to also industry and the like. LinkedIn. So we're B2B. LinkedIn is our most important social channel. It is very different to Twitter and Facebook, and so they have to have different tactics. Again, I would really get Googling and read up on. There are so many research reports and studies that have been done that will show you data also about time of day. That's really important to understand for your, again, and it varies. If you're B2C, you should be posting, tweeting at a completely different time than B2B. So yeah, I would recommend sort of really reading up around the research relevant to your sector.
Yeah, absolutely. A quick one from Phoebe. Have you explored podcasts at all as a content tool, or do you think there's a sort of risk there of going away from your site, the content being too far removed?
Yeah, so I haven't gone into podcasts. I historically I've done a lot of video content marketing on YouTube, and it's similar insofar as you're then taking it away from your site. So, you know, at the moment with Lucidity, where we are, we're interested in the priority is building up our own site traffic. But then absolutely we'll explore, you know, we'll up our video game, we'll explore our podcasts, because of course undoubtedly people are on looking for podcasts or looking for videos and stuff, and putting content can absolutely bring them too. But it's not something that podcasts aren't something that I've done much myself, I'm afraid.
Yeah, interesting one. All right, then. I think that's probably it for time. We have gone slightly over, but I will let you do one last plug for Lucidity, because we're getting lots of questions about it. Does it offer a trial that people who are interested?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a 14-day free trial. So if you head over to getlucidity.com, you'll be able to sign up for a free trial there. It's got a great onboarding process actually, which is fairly new, but it's fantastic. You log in, you answer, you say what industry you're in, what your sort of ambition is. Do you want to turn around? Do you want to diversify, etc.? Answer a few simple questions, and then the system builds you a sort of strategy as a starting point, ready to go. And then there's loads of interactive tools in there, like SWOT analysis and 5 forces, academic tools to sort of more commercial tools like revenue segmentation. And so head over getlucidity.com and have a look. Brilliant. Or you can email me any questions. You can email me, megan@getlucidity.com.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions that we didn't get a chance to go through, so it sounds like Megan would be very happy if you want to drop her a line with any questions, please do. And thank you ever so much, Megan. That was fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye now.
All right then, so that draws us to the close of our third Marketing Talk event. Thank you ever so much for all of your brilliant questions. Any that we didn't get through, we will continue to answer on the Silicon Brighton Hub, which is a brilliant tool that the team at Silicon Brighton have built. So if you scan that second QR code there, that will take you through, and that's also where we will post all of the slides from today's event and previous events, which I know we've had a lot of questions about that too. So please do head over there, and we will see you there, continue the discussion, answer all of your questions, and please do also save the date for our next event, which will be in the new year on the 15th of January. So thank you so much again for coming. See you in the Silicon Brighton Hub, and have a fabulous weekend. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.